And you're very welcome along to episode 12, we believe this might be. We're not sure because, we can't actually count anymore because our brains are so addled by a lack of sleep. You're welcome along to the DADCAST. All the dads are here. Dave McIntyre.
Hello.
Adrian Barry.
Hello.
Nathan Murphy.
How are you?
I'm going to start with Dave this week, though, because we hadn't planned to talk about hospital visits, but I think we might get a full episode out of this one. How are you, Dave?
Great now.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't really I'm not at the centre of this story.
Well, except you are. When something happens to your child, we know that...
Hey, I abdicated responsibility straight away.
It's your bad parenting, Dave, that caused this.
That is true. Not keeping an eye on your child, does that necessarily constitute bad parenting? Leaving your child to his own devices?
For 4 hours? Social services.
Tell that to the judge.
Yeah, we keep making these social services jokes. Increasingly nervous.
Yeah, laughing nervously.
Yeah, I hope no one...
One of them accidentally likes the podcast and when it's been broadcast.
Yeah. Tell me.
Last Friday afternoon, about 4:30, we are in Nikki's parents' house. I am there, so there's absolutely no responsibility on the grandparents.
When the WhatsApps are coming through, I was like, was it your mum and dad or was it Nikki's mum and dad? Is it like...
They bear absolutely no responsibility. I was on the premises. I was supposed to be looking after the kids.
What were you doing, Dave?
Just talking.
A bit of telly.
I was in the kitchen. The little guy, now just gone too, he was in a TV room, and then we just heard a bit of a thump. And then you learn very quickly, as dads listening to this podcast will attest to, you can decipher the serious cry from the slightly less serious cry.
Yeah, are they putting it on? If they are, it's
Have they
fine.
just got a bang? They'll be all right. This was on the more extreme range. And so normally, if his nana runs in and kind of picks him up, he'd be like, no problem, I'll jump into nana's arms. Just ran straight past her, making a beeline for me. And I picked him up. He looked fine, felt his head, like there was no bumps or anything. There was no cuts anywhere in his forehead, which there usually are. He's been opened up several times, this kid. Everyone has, if they have more than one kid, one is basically going to be pretty slow in their old age because they've had concussion so many times before their 5th birthday. He's that kid.
Cutaneous. My
brother was that kid in our house. And I turn him around basically, and his nana, I just see the colour drain from his nana's face. I'm like, what's wrong? He says, there's a lot of blood around the back of his head. So I turn around and he has severed his earlobe in two.
There's the picture.
So,
holy shit.
it was
So you did what all good parents do. Stop there for a minute and I take a quick picture.
DADCAST are going to love this.
This is going to fly online.
That pic was taken in A&E in Temple Street about an hour later after the blood had stopped pumping. So it's about 1.5 centimetres. It's gone right up through the side, right. There's no tissue left. It's actually, you could pull the two pieces apart.
It looks like he's like a teenager who's been in a fight and had the earring pulled out.
That exact same type of injury, the kind of injury you'd regularly see in a rugby pitch, usually involving a front row forward or something that's been rucked out of it.
Stud.
So I was horrified, obviously, when I saw it. So we got to A&E about 20 minutes later, and he was great. Once you give him a bottle, these are the hardy old devils. I would have been crying for
So
hours.
what, you put him into the car and just the two of you went?
Yeah, I just said, so the other...
Can I ask, at what stage do you inform your wife of...
I rang her on the way.
Okay.
And we said, we've had a bit of Adam's had a fall, which is a line we use regularly.
And that conversation was that Adam had a fall, I was out of the room, I thought your mother was looking after him, or how quickly do you throw your in-laws under the bus?
There are no fingers being pointed because, there but for the grace of God go I. My wife knows it could easily have been her. And he's a faller.
What actually happened? This is...
We have no CCTV footage.
Right.
But he either jumped from the couch to the coffee table or from the coffee table to the couch and came down in between. And there was a little toy car on the ground. He's after severing his ear off the edge, the bonnet or the spoiler of his little sports car.
Oh.
And so we go in. I'm there about 20 minutes later. Incredibly busy in there, as any parent who's been in there will know. But really unbelievable service. And the problem is that he was not crying. The blood had stopped. So you're not going to get seen very quickly. There are more serious cases that will jump the queue ahead of you. So we were in triage after about 45 minutes. We saw a doctor. He said, yeah, look, we're going to have to get a proper analysis of this situation. That didn't happen for another 4 hours.
Oh, no.
And in the meantime, he's in and out to get his blood pressure taken, just to make sure he's not suffering any concussive symptoms. So then we get into the doctor at about 9:30, and she takes a look at it. And when you see the doctor kind of grimacing, you're like, fuck, this is bad.
Ooh, I've never seen one of those before.
The worst part of it was the plaster that had been, chunky plaster that had been put on the ear when we went in to triage, then has to be pulled off.
Why did they do that?
So like his split ear is being pulled apart again. And of course he is absolutely losing his life.
Yeah.
Like I had to restrain him, like head, arms, everything, just so that we could get the plaster off without his ear actually coming off Evander Holyfield style.
Shit.
God love him, like, Jesus, he was brave. And then...
Were you brave? Were you crazy?
no, I was like, I can't believe he's going, Daddy, stop it.
Oh, no.
I'm so sorry, buddy, I can't stop this. So, once she cleaned all the blood away, she was like, this is beyond my powers of expertise. You need to
Stop saying this. Just fix it.
said you need to see a plastic surgeon. So she like the doctor was like, I could stitch this for him now, but we have like experts in this field.
Okay.
That I think you'd be far wiser seeing. So
When?
tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So we've been there from 4:30 to 9:30, only to be told there's nothing we really can do for you. You're gonna have to come back in the morning. So
Can they at least inject a little bit of local anaesthetic or something to take the pain away?
no, like it wasn't like there's not an awful lot of nerve. There's no nerve tissue
Right.
here.
Yeah.
It's just flesh. So like it literally was just a flesh wound.
Okay.
So
I mean,
and
a
there's
giant flesh wound, but...
Yeah, a bad one.
Yeah.
There was no major blood vessels either, so the blood bleeding had stopped. It was seeping through the plaster, but it wasn't like he was going to pass out from blood loss. He slept amazingly, like not a bother.
Shock.
Maybe. And then the next morning we were in there at 9 and we were out at 9:20.
Wow.
And we went in here to see the plastic surgeon. He said, he took one look. He said, the first thing I can tell you is that this looks far more horrific than it actually is.
Okay,
So great. He said,
Why weren't you here yesterday when all these other assholes were telling me this is... Ooh, God, I've not seen an engine like that before.
And so he said, what we're going to do is give it a clean. Unfortunately, we have to pull this plaster off, which again led to absolute conniptions. But plaster was off, cleaned up, paper stitches, big plaster put back on it. He said the plaster and the stitches will fall off after about 10 days. I was like, so you're telling me like a gaping wound will knit together that quickly? He said, no problem. Home by 9:30.
Great.
So what did he actually do?
Just cleaned it and
Stitched it?
stuck it together with paper stitches.
Okay, so glue,
Yeah,
basically.
with paper.
Right.
Like you would get on a.
Yeah.
We've closed his cuts ourselves. He had an awful gouge on his forehead that we were like, I just don't want to have to go into A&E and sit there for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Let's go to the chemist.
Look,
get
if he
paper
has a
stitches.
scar on his head for the rest of his life, as long as we're not in there overnight, that's the main
Scars are,
thing.
as JP would say, scars are, they're character
They
forming.
are, and they tell scars tell their own story.
Emotional scars, which...
Anyway, the upshot of it is he'll have a little scar in his ear for the rest of his life, but the scar won't get any bigger as his ear gets bigger.
He might not
so-
want to get his ear pierced now. That's another bonus.
Exactly. So he in 10
Or he
years'
might want to
time.
get it actually pierced, because then at least it might sort of cover up the giant scar that you've left him with.
Look, it was his fault. He should have been looking where he was going.
Could you sue the makers of the little car he fell on?
Or your in-laws.
Do you mean look for anyone other than myself to blame?
Yeah.
Look, I'm not taking any blame for this, but I wouldn't assign blame to anybody else because he
just an
throws
accident,
himself around the place. The latest development involving this kid is that yesterday morning I was lying in bed. My wife had gone to the gym, and he was crying. It was 6:15, and I was like, "This, I'm not getting up at 6:15. Like, he's fine, can't go anywhere. Leave him be." 10 minutes later. And I know our producer's giving out for me hitting the table. There was a reason for it. The telltale thump of a child that has escaped from his cot.
Head first or feet
oh my
first?
God, I don't know, I wasn't there. Oh shit. So we're on out to the landing.
This is officially bad parenting. It's like,
He's standing on the landing on, "Morning, Daddy."
What?
I'm like, "How are you here? How did you get out of your cot?" Like, this has never happened with the previous kid. He was in a bed before he started to climb out.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's a game changer. Like, what do you do now?
How old is he?
He's just gone 2.
Have you a gate on the door of the room?
No, but that's not the problem. The problem is, like, it's a 4-foot drop, 5-foot drop.
Then you just got to take the side off now. And it's like,
Well, you presume that he's not also, his technique is not amazing at this stage. I'm assuming he just manages to leverage enough of his weight over the edge of it.
That should be fine.
No, I don't think so. There are loads of videos on YouTube of kids climbing from their cots. And what they do is they pull themselves up with this, ridiculously adult-like arm strength.
Yeah.
And then they swing themselves over the top.
Yeah.
So they land on their feet.
Either on their feet or their bum.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there was no bump anywhere. He wasn't even crying. He was like, morning. So, he clearly has, agility that his father never had. But it was a scary moment when you hear that bang. But now the gloves are off now because you have to figure out, well, is it now time to move him into the room with his brother? Do we take the gate off, hit his brother's room, which just happens to be there because I couldn't have been arsed taking it off? And do we then attach it to this guy's room? All those questions have yet to be answered.
We're having the same sort of conversation with there's a couple of months between your fella and my fella, I think, and he's definitely leveraging that way in terms of, like, we're expecting that same thud some morning. So whether we should just lash him into a bed at some point or another, I don't know.
That's fine. As you say, no child ever gets injured from falling out the cot. It's character building. They need to learn this. It's their opportunity to break free.
I'm definitely in two minds because, like, once it starts to happen, it's going to happen. But
I think you give it a couple of weeks of it happening and then you move them into the bed.
keep them trapped for as long as possible.
Yeah, trapped is good. Trapped is good.
Yeah.
It's all the stages of stuff that you don't fully appreciate until they've stopped doing it. Like, the trappedness of them is so bloody good. Like, they can't now come out and
be happy time.
Sort of test the durability of my pressure stairs gate, whether at the top of the stairs that I know I shouldn't have.
You just need to weigh it up, though. So he may have learned his lesson from jumping out and landing flat on his ass and gone, actually, that's not worth it.
Don't think so.
Or he may have seen Daddy running out at 6:30 going, well, that was great. I got him up out of bed. Job done.
Noted
or he may just keep doing it for next week and then you're as well to just get rid of the sides anyways, because what's the point?
Noted parent JP says, just put a lid on the cot. Like,
noted parent.
A coffin, basically.
with like bars.
A coffin with see-through bars.
Prison.
You guys obviously have kids your two girls are close enough in age and your two older boys are close enough in age. So you had that discussion as to when they were moved into the room together. How did that affect separate bedtimes,
it's mad.
bedtime stories, all that?
There's actually a gap between our first two, which is bigger than the gap between the second. The second two are basically Irish twins.
Okay.
The second and third ones. But first child, amazing sleeper. Eventually, once we did the whole cried out thing, after that, slept always through the night and still sleeps through any maelstrom, no matter what's going on. Second child, horrific sleeper for ages and ages and ages and ages, until we moved her into the bedroom with her sister, at which point she's like, okay, that's all I wanted. Happy now.
Right.
Sleeps the whole way through.
But did they go to bed at separate times?
No, they, like everybody...
Was there a time when they went to bed at separate times? When they were in the same room? See, that's the question, because... there's 2 years between them and one is 4, which is a lot older in terms of their need for sleep than the 2-year-old, who can't really be staying up till 8:30, 8:30 in the evening. So we will still want him to be going to bed a bit earlier, but...
We start bedtime at 7 and it finishes like 9:30.
Look, I guess we'll suck it and see. We'll just see how it goes. We haven't decided what to do yet, but we were thinking... at least 6 months before they're united together.
Could you bring that 8:30 back to 8 o'clock and move the 7 to 8 and have them both at 8 o'clock? And
saves an awful lot of hassle.
Does, yeah.
We were having this conversation last night about the baby.
He's great going to bed and all, but he's, he enjoys the story and he enjoys the song and he enjoys the...
But get the young lad into that routine.
Yeah. Yeah. That might work. Plus, he does tend to sleep through a lot of stuff as well. So
we used to read a story from your head, story from your head. So, like, everybody gets 2 stories, and it takes about 45 minutes. And if your story's not good,
I was just going to ask.
There's a rolling critic. Now, that story's too short, and it's been shit tonight. Those characters are no good.
That's long.
I want better characters.
Bloody hell.
I want more characters.
My wife, who I've frequently said on this podcast, is an amazing human being, and a real gift to humanity.
Snores horribly during
the story stuff never happened.
That's I don't know what you're talking about. According to Adrian Barry, she does disappear up for the sort of bedtime routine with the older fella, and I'm 45 minutes an hour later, I'm like, what were you doing? Put the child to bed. Like, if I do it, it's up. We do brush the teeth, which, to be fair, is like him putting the toothbrush in his mouth and running around the landing for 5 minutes and not actually doing any brushing. Brush the teeth, put the pyjamas on, read Peppa Pig, sing a few songs, and it's bed. That's it. Like, that entire thing is like 10 or 15 minutes. Whereas, like, obviously from his point of view, he's like, oh, how long can I drag this shit out?
Yeah.
Like, another book, give me another. No, it's like more books, more songs. It's like, stop listening to him. Like, put him to bed.
Was this always the case, or just since the new baby arrived?
I know, but generally would have been the case, yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know.
See, ours have gone to another level now where they don't seem that interested in the story at night. They just want to read books by themselves.
Oh, happy days. And then you can...
So I'm like, but the problem we have now is, with our oldest lad, is he's up half the night reading.
Yeah.
So we go up at 9:30, because they go, again, we started about 7 o'clock. They're probably in bed around 7:30. They get one story that we sort of feel like insisting that we have to read, but they're still looking at their match attacks and Pokemon cards and half
You'd have to swipe them from them and...
We try.
Do you want
the war? They were, because I saw you actually putting a tweet up about books, and I was following it to see, because we had a brilliant routine for about 18 months where our oldest lad was mad into any Roald Dahl book.
Yeah.
And actually Charlie, the younger lad, got into it as well, and we'd read them and they'd sit for half an hour and listen, and they'd be mad keen to get up and listen to the next story. And once they were done, we've never got them into anything else. Like, even those Captain Underpants, they sort of look at them and go...
Everyone was raving about Captain Underpants.
Yeah.
That tweet, by the way, was the most response I've got to any tweet. Like, people have a lot of strong views on kids' books, and...
So I couldn't figure out, I can't decide whether... So at the moment, say, Zach has a book about space, and he's up there reading quizzes to himself. I'm like, is this a good thing?
Oh, yeah. You think he's a weirdo?
Well, it's not necessarily the content,
for knowing that,
but I'm like, should we be having the half an hour where we're all sitting around reading one book that is going to last them through the years, that they'll always remember this, or actually, if they're happier there lying in bed for an hour just reading their own book, you let them at it.
I mean, if you...
I presume he's going to progress to...
I'd be letting him at it. This is brilliant.
Both, yeah.
He's a bookworm already, and he's reading himself to sleep. Well, what do you want?
Reading himself to sleep, or calling me at 9:10 and going, what club does this guy play for?
We made the stupid error of putting nightlights into their lives.
Right.
Oh, don't talk to me.
It's a stupid idea. Now, in retrospect, it's like...
Why?
Because...
Can't undo it now.
All of the surveys show that you sleep better in darkness as opposed to a fake light.
But you just turn off the light at some point.
Yeah, but they're asleep by then.
They're asleep, so...
Yeah, but they're going to sleep with the light on.
Then they will wake up in the night and go,
where's my light?
Fair enough, yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah.
It's the end of the world. Some alien came in and switched. Like, obviously the whole world stops when they go to sleep, and then it starts again when they wake up. That's... and now trying to get it off them, it's like...
the two lads' bedroom is like a really bad country disco at 3 o'clock in the morning. Zach has his, which whenever new batteries go in, a Lego Man light that lights up the entire room.
Yeah.
Some sort of a spinning globe that puts shapes onto the roof. Charlie has a giant green light that he insists bringing under the covers with him. And now Charlie has asked for Christmas for an alarm clock with a light.
No.
It's like...
But the alternative is to have just the main light on, though, isn't it?
Well, just the light outside on the landing.
Light, yeah.
But if they're... Okay, so if they're... But is that... Why do they want the lights?
Because they...
Initially, is it for reading or stuff?
I think they like the thought of having their own thing beside their bed.
Yeah, it's control, it's power. It's
and it is. Now, they've got over it, but there was a good 3 months where, obviously, when we're going to bed, you go in, you switch off all the lights, and then at 4 in the morning, it's too dark!
Yeah.
Where's my light? It's like, no.
It's very hard to break habits.
Yeah.
Especially habits that have been going on for years.
So, like, our fellow just goes to bed in the pitch black. There's actually nothing in his room.
Great idea. Don't ever change that.
So just leave it.
Oh, Jesus. And never,
If you want a creak in the door, let that be the height of it. A reassuring ray of light coming in from the landing.
Is that something that happens at a certain point in their existence where they go, oh, the darkness is totally fine, and then some point...
I don't know. I'd say that's different for everybody. I think it's... like, there are loads of grown-ups who sleep with lights on.
Well, I don't like sleeping in the dark.
Really?
I don't like it being pitch black, no.
But you're from the country.
And we had electricity when I was growing up there.
But there's actual darkness in the country. Like, now, living in the city, it's never, ever dark. So you never get a good night's sleep. You go home. I was at home in Italia recently, went to bed and woke up the next morning. I was like, what the hell is that? This is amazing. And it's pitch dark. The only light is the light of the moon.
Pitch darkness is amazing.
You don't like it?
No, I wouldn't be keen, no.
Why?
I don't know.
Are you afraid of the boogeyman, or what's the...
Who knows? There's a deep psychological scar
that's his wife you're talking about.
What sort of light do you have?
No, I don't have any.
I've got a
right
green
now.
light that I bring under the covers with me every night. I don't know where my son gets it from. It's like...
It stole it from me. There's a...
Like, where does my son get the bad country disco lights from? And you're in next door, like, with a full-on sort of...
Would you
strobe
stop?
lights.
Right now, the only lights we have are the lights in the other bathroom, which is so that there's some light for the two lads if they wake up.
And what for you?
I don't know if that also worked for me.
And if that was turned off...
previously, before the kids were born, I'm fairly sure we just
Is that a security thing, or is it a health and safety thing, or what's your beef with light?
Health and safety thing.
That's the mistake you make. Like they're going to wake up and they won't know where they are. But like, of course they know where they are. This is their entire world. They know every inch of the house because they've literally been crawling around that floor for years.
And also your eyes get used to it after about 10 seconds.
As soon as they wake up, yeah. And they actually have better vision than we do. So, but like it was this sense that they needed. I don't know.
The most interesting part of this is Nathan's reliance on light.
We need a different...
Like if I was in a hotel room, I'd leave the bathroom light on. But like just a little bit.
Well,
because I don't want to wake up and not know where I am.
You and I are going to be sharing a bedroom very shortly, and I'm telling you now there'll be no lights on.
Well,
that also is another podcast.
that was quite threatening.
To be fair, when said like that, it does. That was not my intention. That was not my intention.
I know what bed I'm creeping into.
Creeping being the word.
Wow.
Yeah, so hospitals, tell us your hospital stories.
Well, I can't speak highly enough for the staff at Temple Street. They were great.
Well, it's funny, you were just saying...
So many kids.
You were saying how your kids are sick at the moment and have temperatures. I was trying to figure out, at this time of year, which is worse. High temperatures or vomiting bugs?
Oh, vomiting by far. Because the high temperature...
But the high temperature is always a little bit of a fear that...
It could be something
this
serious.
could escalate quite rapidly. Whereas a vomiting bug, you know, it's probably going to be a short-term thing.
The smell of puke
for
never
that
leaves.
short term, it's absolutely horrific.
We got a new Hoover. There was a vomiting bug. The Hoover was used to clean the vomiting.
Oh, no.
Every time it's used now, brand new Hoover, every time the Hoover gets switched on, the whole house stinks of now a year old.
You hoovered up the vomit?
No, so you cleaned it up.
Well, it dried in for 2 days, but I mean...
well, then you can just scoop it up with a spade.
Shovel it.
I actually don't know how it happened. It must have been two of the rooms have carpet. That's the other thing that I would definitely do.
Yeah, decarpet your house.
Entirely.
Oh, really?
We haven't been able to.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Like, we have the carpet on the stairs, no other room in the house has carpet. Because it just takes so long for the smell sick to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leather soap as well is what you need.
We've got a leather
There is
soap,
the risk. You have to weigh it up. Obviously, there's the
back of the head.
There's they smashed their head off the ground.
Their head anyway.
Clearly.
Yeah. It hasn't been that much of an issue so far.
Smashing of heads.
Yeah, they're going to smash their head off the sides of things.
The only thing I'm always worried about is that one of them would slip down the stairs somehow with all their up and down the stairs at 100 miles an hour that they take a misstep.
So easy to be you though.
Probably more likely.
It's the edges of tables that when they reach a certain height, that doesn't very little.
Do you go around with all this gear? I've bought some of that stuff recently. Went on a bit of a spree there. Bought the old plug socket protectors and most likely.
Why not talk to us before you do this? We can save you a load of money. It's all a waste of time.
And then we bought maybe 3 different types of table protectors and little step corner
none of
protectors.
Which have an adhesive strong enough to
none of them do, but the one that's on the corner, like a step, for example, it doesn't make any difference if it's not stuck to it or not. Because they'll only, if they fall on it and knock their head off it, it's there, so it's fine.
The only thing that we felt that we really needed was the sticky things that keep the drawers that have the knives.
Some of them as well.
You get them in IKEA for a £5.
Do they stand up to the strength test?
They have stood up to.
They just kept ripping.
Depends on the.
They stood up to everybody up to this one, and we just need to put one more on. But he started to play with the knives, so we just need to get our shit together. Now that I think of it,
we just put
you can get knives that children can play with.
It does encourage them to play with the knives.
No, it gets them used to knives for when they graduate to actual knives.
Yeah, really, all we've done is allow all our good knives to become blunt. It's like you're cutting a fucking turkey going, Jesus Christ.
We should have actually done a show, and maybe we can do, on the amount of crap you buy when you have a baby.
The first time.
That you never need. because actually,
the papoose.
I should have meant for anyone who is going to have a child, we got the greatest invention of all time for this one. So you're probably going to move on to bottles at some stage soon. You want to get this.
Soon, but yeah.
You want to get this. It's a little, I say a little. I had a look, I thought it cost 40 quid. I think it costs about 130 quid, but it's worth every penny. It's almost like an espresso for bottles.
I've seen this, yeah.
And it puts the bottle at the exact temperature.
All right.
So you don't have to sort of prick it around with...
You just hit you fill it with water, click
So-
the button, powder's already in there, boom.
You put the powder in.
Yeah, you put it in.
Yeah,
So
but it has a little spinny thing. So do you want 4 ounces, 5 ounces, 6 ounces, 7 ounces? First of all, it puts in the boiling water, a couple of ounces of that. Then you put in your 7 ounces of powder.
Yeah.
And then it pours it exactly to the right amount. And it's at the perfect temperature. So you don't need to worry about 3 a.m. trying to cool down a bottle.
Yeah.
It's the greatest 130 quid we have ever spent.
I'd forgotten all about that.
I'd forgotten completely as well because of this thing. It's changed my life.
Completely blanked that whole section of the...
Breastfeeding really is...
Did I put in 6 or did I put in 7?
No,
Actually, that's the funny thing. By the third one, I couldn't give a damn.
No,
with the first one, it was measured. I'm like, was that half? Was it? Oh no!
Did I put in 6 or did I put in 7? How many fucking times did I ask myself that question?
I have people who are in our family circle. I'm not going to name any names, but first child got warm bottles. Second child got occasional warm bottles. Third child all cold all the time, and never knew any difference.
Ice cold. Yeah.
Never knew any difference. It was never warmed. It was like, okay, we're just going to try this. And if that's also the bit where you care too much about everything being perfect. It's like, yeah, take the bottle.
Oh,
as if like an extra ounce was going to make a difference.
The knife, like get the knife out to sort of...
There's a
little thing that you on the lid, that you sort of scrape it off.
The lip inside it, yeah.
It's got the full works.
What do you think that was?
What lip?
The lip on the inside of the powder box.
Yeah.
What do you mean the lip?
So you've got the box. You'll see there's a little serrated edge just underneath the lip of the top of the
one
box.
of the corners.
I've been through this with one child and I have not noticed this at all.
So what were you doing? You were using the knife.
Yeah.
Like a fella pouring a pint of Guinness.
The knife is adding to the risk because where's the knife been? The knife could be contaminated.
Yeah. I mean...
Oh, with the first child, I do remember it was literally that there was some sort of... it was a highly scientific process that if somehow you got the mixture wrong, it was automatic poisoning and probable near death. Start again.
And the microwavable
bottle cleaner.
Sterilizer.
The sterilizer.
Yeah, we got one of them.
What a pain in the hole.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But you can only do like
they
3
could just
4
about fit in the microwave.
Oh,
so our microwave's up high, so you kind of had to and then when you're taking it out, it's full of water, and it's like boiling water. You're like risking pouring on yourself quite a lot.
And also whenever you go away for the night, it's like it takes up half the boot.
They never did die when you forgot to sterilise the bottle.
Or you put in 6 scoops or 8 scoops.
Which never happened, obviously, but happened a bit more than maybe.
Anyway, get yourself one of these if you're...
That's fantastic.
I'll give you ours, only the engine burnt out.
Overuse.
I think just smart in that. They give you 6 months, 9 months, and then they make sure you don't hand it on to anybody.
Well, ours was second hand as well. Our neighbour gave it to us, so it had seen better days.
The espresso maker.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, that doesn't sound good. I think definitely you get to a point where the temperature is bad and it makes them narky, but you can fix it. It's going to be fine as it goes along. But child one, whenever the temperature would hit 40, we'd be like straight in the car, doing her up, and making sure she's fine. Put her in the baby seat, drive to the hospital, and they're looking at us going, "That's your first child, isn't it?" Here's some. You give a Calpol? Yeah. Well, we'll just see if that has any impact. Here's some ibuprofen. Try that. Temperature goes down. Like, you can go if you want. I mean, you can wait and see the doctor if you feel like you really need to. We're like, okay, fair enough. Sorry about that. Now
You're still back in the next time, though, weren't you?
Oh yeah, but no child after that ever went to hospital for a temperature because it was like, ibuprofen's a thing. Yeah.
And also the free GP pre-2.
6.
6?
Yeah.
6.
Holy shit, happy days. But to be fair, we creamed it for the first year. It was like, something wrong, pack up the car, let's go. And then GP was like, are these wankers again? Literally,
No, they're delighted to see it. They get full.
Probably, yeah. Pre-6, happy days.
They are money makers for the GPs because they're only in for 5. You're only in for 5 minutes.
That works for everybody.
You're never there for he's got a throat infection. Here's an antibiotic, or give him some Calpol. You're gone 5 minutes later. Not a bother. It's the best way to do it.
We would have been in hospital most for getting a nebulizer. Like everybody has bad chests. Again, one of the reasons
Same as us.
Get the carpets out. We never did it. Should have done it. Didn't do it. Stupid. And then eventually one of them, the GP was like, now this is obviously not medical advice, everybody, but a person told us who was qualified, said, look, if it's ever an emergency, 10 puffs of the blue is basically the same impact as a nebulizer. And it worked. The one time we had to try it. Yeah. It was like...
Oh, because the nebulizer is hell.
Especially when they're of a certain age. It's like this giant machine that makes a rattling noise, and you're like...
I think I mentioned before...
Straight-jacketing the child as they're...
Charlie, 7 months old, Christmas, like Christmas Eve, Christmas night, we're in there with him on the nebulizer, and Debbie just felt she couldn't do it. Like, she couldn't sit there and hold him down like that, whereas I was like, just give me him here. Full strength on.
Pinning him.
Oh,
Christmas night, let me go.
And you can hear their throat the whole way there.
Yeah.
Just bubbling up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun.
That's nasty
What
stuff.
are you taking a nebulizer for? What's the...
Because they can't cough
Asthma.
up the phlegm
Asthma,
a lot of the time, so it loosens everything.
Right.
Yeah, it's a form of asthma.
But very limited trips to the hospital. But I was there on Monday. We went into... Con's got a bunch of allergies or intolerances. We were not 100% sure.
You handed them on to him, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But we should have done this, to be fair, about a year and a half ago. We only got around to it on Monday. And...
It's scheduled. It's scheduled to...
No, it's a walk-in service, so you can go in and get a blood test, and you take your butcher's ticket and sort of sit down, and it's kind of hilarious, like human interactions of people particularly with lots of kids who are kind of hell-bent on getting the hell out of there and not having to hang around for too long, and what lengths they'll go to jump the fucking queue. Like, and I'm sitting there going, if 53 isn't called into this fucking door next, and you, who I know is 54, get called in, I don't care.
Their ear hanging off.
I'm coming for you. But yeah, it was great, and he was a proper little trooper. Went in, got the old injection, got distracted by George Pig up in the bin, and he was grand all the way through the injection. Then got a little, the sort of lump of cotton wool and the plaster on it, and then went around with a limp hand for the rest of the day, like sort of making sure that everybody knew that he'd had massive trauma.
The worst we had was a lost tooth, where I came home one day and Charlie had been going 100 miles an hour. I think much like your youngest lad is the one who gets in everything. Mm-hmm. So we're in a little cul-de-sac. It's sort of nice little bit of a downhill segment on his scooter, 100 miles an hour. Somebody had left a shoe in the middle of the footpath, straight over the top, landed down in his face. And at first we were kind of like, oh, I wasn't at home at the time, but the neighbour brought him in and was like, tooth looks a bit loose. Tooth comes straight out. My cousin is a paediatric dentist, and we were kind of going, look, the tooth's out, it's fine. She's like, she's down in Cork, bring him down straight away. So, yeah, about a year later, it's literally a year later, there's a little bit of it, there was a little bit stuck in there.
Right.
Has to, because they don't want to take it out, but also at the same time, they can't let it get infected because it'll
Kill the next one.
the next one.
Oh.
Had to go undergo full anaesthetic then to get the
Oh, God.
fully removed.
Nasty.
Oh, so there was just the original tooth, a little bit of it stuck in there.
Yeah, a
And the other one grew.
good bit of it, but it had gone. They left it in for a year, and it
So
was
they knew it was
pure
there
brown.
initially? Did they? When you went down, you were saying you went down to have it looked at straight away.
Yeah.
And they knew there was a bit of tooth in there then.
No, you could see the tooth. There was a good,
Why didn't they
there was
take
a
it
good
out?
chunk because they wanted to leave it there so that the shape. I presume it's that the shape of the mouth stays the same.
And also, the other one's not ready to come down yet.
Right.
So, like, what happens if you
It
pull
wasn't.
that and
It wasn't
stuck?
infected, so it wasn't doing any damage having it there. So she would check it every 3 months then to make sure that.
Did you ever see the X-ray of the child, or the skull of a child? Was it where you can see the
Oh, yeah, where they are.
Oh, the ones lined up,
yeah,
getting ready to come
yeah.
down.
So
Right,
if they're not ready to come down, that gets trapped up there. Then that could be a bit of a nightmare. You have to go all the way up and pull that out.
Stop.
How more accidents don't happen with scooters? Oh my god!
Because they're very skilled.
I know that.
They know what they're doing, unlike us.
At some point, I want to go on.
No, I was going to say they in our sort of cul-de-sac, which is a nice little circle during the summer days, decided there's about 10 kids between the age of 5 and 8 decided to start having races between their bikes and their scooters. And again, Charlie's very proud of him that he would win a lot of these races due to his sheer speed on his scooter. But you're watching them. It was like they were doing heats, so they were doing 5 at a time around these little bends. So we're all standing there watching. Oh, this isn't going to end well. Sure enough, boom, 2 of them on the bikes smash into each other, and that eerie silence of Nobody's crying here. Nobody's crying here. They were all fine in the end. It was okay, though.
So they were heats and everything. Heats
and everything.
Speaks a lot to their organisational skills at that age.
No helmets.
At some point I want to talk about the creche versus stay-at-home guilt, and actually how both make you feel incredibly. Guilt is the thing that I'm finding as a parent. It just never leaves you every day for some other reason. There's a reason to feel bad. But having them at home and feeling guilty about their lack of social interaction with other kids, or sending them to creche and feeling guilty about exporting them off for the day. At some point or another, I'd be interested in your expertise.
This has got nothing to do with your kids. This is all on you.
No, totally. But
You're the problem.
It is. I kind of think because he's at home at the minute, the older lad, that creche is probably the thing for him.
Of course it is. So he gets to play with kids his age, several of them, every day for hours, instead of sitting at home looking at your ugly mum.
What age is he?
He's 2 in January.
But he's going to be on a creche in September.
Oh, Montessori.
What, like the free job?
Yeah. So that's fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be feeling guilty about, as I've put it before, subcontracting the rearing of your children to another.
They screw you.
No, I'm all
They work back from the year you're going in, and they give you we're getting screwed. We're not getting 2 full years. We're getting
Yeah, neither will we. We're going to lose 4 months.
We're losing a good bit, I think. When was he born?
He'll be going in September, but he was only born in November, so it's only January that it kicks in.
Yeah, so he was born in March, and I think doesn't get into the following January.
All right, you really are been screwed.
Yeah,
there you go.
And it's like a just box ticking thing.
God damn it, I presume they got in for the 2 full years before.
No, they do not. School. They do not. You want to look into that. And getting your place in the place that you want them to go is also unbelievably tricky. And then it'll be that bit's free, but
I'm all about this free shit.
Woe betide you if you dropped them in 5 minutes early. Woe betide you if you dropped them in 5 minutes early.
Really?
What's the name of this place, Ger?
Yeah, don't drop them in 5 minutes early, but you make sure there's enough to pay them on bank holidays when they're not working. But we love our place. They're amazing. They actually are amazing. But that's just the way it's just the way the system works.
Yeah,
you go into it open-eyed, you know exactly what the crack is.
Well, no, you don't. You find out as it goes along.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Soon into the system, your eyes are opened.
They are, yeah.
And at that stage, the creche is that good that your kids love going there, and there's zero you can do about it.
No, that's true.
Just be thankful that they love being there, and they're not crying on the way down the driveway every morning.
Oh yeah, so the sick one today. One of the 3, it's school play day today, and she woke up and went, I want to go to school. With a temperature of 40, we're like, you're not going to school. And then, I want to go to school. And so then it was like, okay, you are going to school. If you get well. We'll just have to see if you get well. So that bit where you lie to them, and hopefully it'll be somebody else's responsibility to break the news a little bit later on. I'm not sure I'm going to be there for the bit where it's like, you're definitely not going now, it's too late. Yeah. You wanted one last thing you wanted to talk about was it says people on the WhatsApp. People who don't have buggies or wheelchairs who use lifts instead of escalators.
I used a bad word about these people. I was at a fit of fury when I sent that text. Why are you looking at me quizzically for?
It seems a little bit unreasonable.
So you're in a shopping centre.
Yes.
And
you're in Dundrum.
Like particularly busy shopping centres at the minute. Obviously, there's a lot of people milling around. There's a fairly healthy service of escalators in said shopping centre, I'm presuming most shopping centres. And the elevators, in fact, it says on the fucking elevator door, don't use the elevator if give priority to people in wheelchairs or with pushchairs. But yet you get dickheads all the time jamming up the elevators, who are just fine. They've got a bag or two. Go and use the escalator. It drives me crazy. Full range. There's no typical, in my experience, typical person who does this. If you're trying to suggest that it's an OAP...
it says people in their 20s.
It's
millennials.
Everybody. Unfortunately, we're talking to the wrong audience here because obviously most people who are listening to this podcast have kids and are legitimised as such to use the, in my opinion,
Can I ask this question? What about you're at Dundrum, where, again, there is no real excuse because there's escalators everywhere. Beside every elevator.
Why can't you... it's an escalator with the steps as opposed to a travelator. I've got you.
There's a mixture of both.
So why can't you just use the travelator then?
because I might, for example, have... I want to use the fucking elevator because...
There are holes in this story.
Oh, because...
No, there's not.
If you're in the middle... Sorry, if you're in the middle of Dundrum, to use the escalator that doesn't have steps, you have to go all the way down the other end, and it's this long maze up and down. It takes you forever.
Yeah. But also I've got like one... I'm holding on to one child. I've got another child in the buggy. I might have a shopping trolley. We had all of those things that day that I sent that text. And yet there was several people jumping... Like, at one point I was like, I know you're ahead of me, but if those people go into that elevator, I'm going in to tell them to get out. There's literally like an escalator just there. Just walk over to the escalator. Like they also... These two people, particular people that I was referring to that text... stood at the elevator for, I'd say, because they're very slow in that particular shopping centre, I'd say about 4 minutes waiting for the elevator to arrive when there was an escalator just there. You lazy bastards.
What was your question?
They were about 30.
My question was, say you have a situation where you're there with your wife and the buggy. Are you also getting in the escalator with your wife and the child?
Of course I am.
In the elevator?
Yes. Because, why, what?
You're taking up a body of space that's not required.
No, you're totally entitled to not be separated from your family by getting into the elevator.
For
that's totally
40
legit.
seconds.
No, that's totally legit.
I don't know.
No, like, come off.
I
like,
have often made a point of standing at that elevator waiting, and I would say, it's not much space, I'll meet you up there.
Well, I mean, you are the Uber gentleman.
No, I just get a couple of minutes break from the kids.
Exactly. I got a long way around.
But I mean, are you legitimised to say to these people who could just as easily take the escalator and alleviate the pressure on the elevators for people who should...
It's not the same level as parking in a child's
I actually think
you can't say
every bit
you
as
cannot
bad.
say to people
Because what you get is your man whips off his fake leg and goes, oh, I'm sorry that I didn't...
Starts beating you over the head with it.
I mean, I think if that was to happen every time, you'd be in a very bad look. But it says on the door, give priority to...
Yeah.
So on that
People
basis...
don't care. People don't read signs.
What I do is I get into the lift and I go and I'll make some sort of a... Wing will be on one side and I'll be on the other, and I'll be like, oh, it's not busy elevators, not much room in here for people pushing things.
This
like,
might be our last show before Christmas.
Right.
Oh.
It might be.
It may be.
Yeah, because if we record one next week, then it would actually go out on Christmas Day. We could do it.
Well, here, listen, I would say, fathers out there, if we were to say we're putting this up at 8 o'clock on Christmas night, they could make an appointment.
Well, let's not write it off just yet.
Okay, fair enough. If this is our last show before Christmas, have a happy Christmas, everybody. And if it isn't, we'll see you next week. Is that fair enough?
That sounds fine, yeah.
Yeah, not a bad show. I'd say, good solid 6.5, 7 out of 10.
Oof. Yeah, severed earlobe and all.
There you go. That gets us an extra star. Leave a comment wherever you get this. Tweet us. You can follow us at DADCASTPod on Twitter. You can also just use the hashtag DADCAST. That's Adrian pointing at... trying to pick Nathan's nose in a harbinger of what's going to happen in that room with the lights off.
In the darkness.
Wow. See you next week. Good luck.